Consul General Yuliana. Welcome to Worldviews.
Thank you very much, Suzette. Thank you. I'm very pleased to be here this morning. And I'd love to have more cooperation with the University of Oklahoma.
Well, that sounds great. It's great to have you here. You're visiting, this is your first visit to Oklahoma. You recently came to the United States as the new Consul General for Indonesia in Houston. And so you're representing this state as well, covering all of the Indonesian population here. But let's just refresh our memories a little bit about Indonesia, since I know you represent your country here in the United States. Because I think we often forget that Indonesia is a string of islands. 17,000 islands make up the country of Indonesia, and it has the fourth largest population in the world, approximately 250 to 260 million people stretched across all of these islands. And also the largest Muslim country in the world, right? So what is it, now that you're here representing your country in the United States, what is it that you would like for us to know politically, economically, socially, culturally about Indonesia?
That's true that what you said, Indonesia is the biggest archipelagic country. If you look at the map, Indonesia is surrounded by waters, by ocean. So actually, ocean is more compared than the land size itself, and that's why Indonesia, what we call by the biggest also archipelagic country in the world. And then we have 17,000 islands because archipelagic. Then there are a lot of small islands that we count as well. But there are 5 biggest islands in Indonesia, like in Java Island, and then the Sumatra Island. We have also island in Kalimantan, and then Sulawesi and Papua itself. So that 5 biggest island we have in Indonesia. And Indonesia is also the largest Muslim country population. Compared with other countries, I think the second largest is in Pakistan, India, and then the other countries. But Indonesia population, Muslim majority is around 203 million Muslim population out of 260 million population in Indonesia. I just arrived in Houston last month as a new Consul General of Indonesia. So mostly what we are doing in representing Indonesia is promoting people-to-people connectivity, because of course the political affairs will be covered by Indonesian Embassy in Washington, D.C. But people-to-people connectivity is very important because U.S. also has a very huge population. And through people-to-people connectivity is including also the university-to-university partnership. That's why our time to visit Oklahoma University is very significant as an element to strengthen the bilateral relation between Indonesia and also the U.S. And besides that also, we have to do a cooperation in economic sectors, tourism, trade, and also investment. Vice President of the U.S. just visited Indonesia this year in April. And also the Vice President Mike Pence emphasized the importance of economic cooperation between Indonesia and the U.S. So far, actually, the balance of economics is surplus in Indonesia. That's why Indonesia is one of the few countries that President Trump expects to increase import from the U.S. to Indonesia also, so we can get a win-win solution between the countries, between both countries in terms of economic sectors. During the G20 meeting in Hamburg, our president, both of President of Indonesia and also President Trump, met in July in 2017, and also there are 2 at least issues that they covered, especially in economic issues and also in terrorism cooperation. Indonesia has a best practices, best experience in countering terrorism. We experience also the threat and also the attack of fundamental and radical groups. So through intelligence cooperation, this is also very important as a significant element to both countries, Indonesia and the U.S.
How is the relationship then with the U.S. regarding this issue? I mean, I know Indonesia has experienced some high-profile terrorist incidents. There was the very large bombing in Bali, for example. I mean, tourism is so important to your country that terrorism obviously is it's never a good thing, but it's obviously something that really affects a major sector of your economy. So what are some of the things that you're doing, and particularly with your Asian neighbors? You are the home of ASEAN, which is an economic group, but politically and on the issue of terrorism, how are you working with your neighbors on these issues?
We have a regional organization mechanism, what we call by ASEAN. ASEAN is a very strong regional organization in the region itself. So we have a very strong cooperation in counting terrorism. Besides that, we also have a very close cooperation with our neighbor countries, like with Australia, with the U.S. also in countering terrorism. We have what we call by Jakarta Center of Law Enforcement in counting terrorism, and also in improving our capacity in dealing with the threat of terrorism. So through ASEAN and also through bilateral cooperation, we try to curb the radical groups and also counter the terrorist attack. Of course, when there is an attack, it will affect tourists coming to Indonesia. But from our data, it will only affect a very short time, and after that, the visitors come again to Indonesia. In our data, most tourists coming to Indonesia at the moment is from China and also from Japan and also Australia, the neighbors countries. We would like to invite more tourists also from the U.S. coming to Indonesia. Indonesia at the moment contribute a lot of budget to the human resources development. We would like to encourage also our students to study more in the U.S. And I also expect that the American students also can visit Indonesia, because Indonesia is one of the biggest, in Asian, it is the biggest country in ASEAN. We have 10 member countries of ASEAN, and Indonesia is the biggest country, contributed around 200 or one-fourth of the population to ASEAN countries, which has around 600 million population. Jakarta also is the headquarters of ASEAN Secretariat. So for students or for young people and millennials who want to see how Indonesia grows, I think Indonesia is the right place to visit.
Well, there's so much to study in Indonesia, because it is, I mean, like you said, 17,000 islands. It's known for its biodiversity. It's the world's third largest biodiverse country in the world, behind Brazil and Colombia. There are 150 active volcanoes in Indonesia. You actually have a super volcano as well. So, culturally, politically, economically, biologically, you have so much to learn and study. And I noticed something that was very interesting, and that is your national motto, in fact, is unity in diversity, that you recognize that you're a very diverse country, despite being, you've got a dominant Muslim religion, but you have over hundreds of languages, so linguistic and ethnic backgrounds in your very large country, and so there's a lot of diverse things to study and learn. But can you maybe speak on that issue of diversity a little bit, and the kind of the way in which you do find unity in diversity in Indonesia?
Yes, unity in diversity is our motto, what we call by Bhinneka Tunggal Ika in our language. And as you said, that many religions we recognize, the government, state recognize 5 religions: Muslim, Catholics, and then Buddhist, and then also Hindu, and also Konghucu. So those 5 religions, we recognize their religious days, and when they celebrate the religious days, it is a national day for us. So we respect the religious holiday. The second thing, of course, we have one language, Indonesian language, national language. Regardless that there are a lot of dialects, a lot of ethnic groups in Indonesia, but Indonesian language becomes becomes an element to unite the people in Indonesia. Indonesia is a very democratic country at the moment. I think the 3rd largest democratic country in the world after the US and also India, and we also promote tolerance another, and the local language is also studied by the schools in Indonesia. So we leave them grow, but then there should be a united language, and a lot of activities also to unite the people. So pluralism, democracy, and tolerance is our key issues at the moment in uniting the people of Indonesia.
And you mentioned that Indonesia is a democratic country. It is a fairly new democratic country in the past couple of decades, so it's still making its transition. It's also a country that was hit hard by the Asian financial crisis back in the late 90s. So how is Indonesia coming along kind of politically and economically in terms of its development today? I mean, how you mentioned elections coming up, you mentioned trade and investment and tourism and all the things that you're doing economically. Obviously, you're a place, not only a destination, but you export very important things: coffee, palm oil, coal, oil, refined gas. But kind of where are we headed, I guess, in terms of the future of Indonesia?
Our growth at the moment is very stable and increasing. And based on the data from McKinsey, even in 2030, Indonesia can be the 16th or even the 4th largest economic country in the world. This is based on the research from McKinsey Global Institute in 2013. Indonesia can be the 7th largest economy in the world. And then also we will have around 135 million members of the consuming class, meaning we have a big purchasing power, because half of the population will have a power in purchase goods and things. And also 71% of the population in cities producing 86% of the GDP. So by 2030, Indonesia will reach one of the important economic power in the world. We invest a lot at the moment in human resources development. Our national budget contribute structure is 20% now for human development. We send a lot of students all over the world, so this is a big investment for Indonesia to prepare our future generation and to prepare Indonesia in the world. And also we reduce now a lot of procedures, like for investment from a very long time to get the license for investor, especially for the foreign investors. But now with President Jokowi come to the administration, the investment service reforms conducted and 3-hour service to issue a license for foreign investment. The tax allowance, and also we have around 16 economic package now to streamline the process of attracting the foreign direct investment coming to the country. So we are very optimistic that Indonesia, in terms of political stability, at the moment I think Indonesia is one of the stable country, and we get support also from our neighbors, and also in terms of economy also. Our President Jokowi administration at the moment focusing on the infrastructure building. This is also to support our tourists coming to Indonesia.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Consul General Yuliana. It's really great to hear about your country. It's a country that we don't often, pay enough attention to, I think, over in this part of the world. And so it's very fascinating, and I think it's a place we should all be visiting. So thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you very much, Suzette, for giving me the chance to introduce Indonesia. I'd love to invite people to come to our country. Bali, I know, is very well known by the U.S., but beside Bali, we have many more destinations to visit. So welcome.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. We'll see you there soon.
Thank you. Thank you very much.